Hi. Hello. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another video. Are we live? Can you guys see us? Sit on the bed. Can you guys see us? Can you guys hear us?
That's how much they did the record, the thing.
I don't.
That should work.
Do you think so? It says 0.
We're probably just waiting for it to load.
Hello. Oh, there it is. All right, now there it is. Hi, guys. Hello. Welcome back
Let's
to
go.
another.
Let's go. Can you guys hear us? Okay.
Can you guys hear us? Yes,
Awesome.
I hear you. Perfect.
Let's
Hi,
roll.
Melissa. Hi, Jenna.
What's
Hi,
up? What's
Rosa.
up? Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be really interesting, and I
Yeah.
think it's a really important one.
Don't mind Aiden's fingerprints all over this thing.
Oh, yeah. It's Mila and Aiden. They're always like climbing up there, and that's like their spot to see everything.
Here. Okay. Awesome.
All right, perfect.
So I've been refreshing since 6. My bad. I had to get some stuff out
Oh.
to my client, so it took me a little bit longer.
Sorry, guys, but here we are as promised. We will never miss a Wednesday unless it's like an emergency, but we'll be an hour late or so, but we'll still make
we'll
it.
make it.
All right, guys, so let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough Conversations. Episode 4. Today we're talking about...
Masculinity, femininity, and gender roles.
Yes, exciting.
This was gonna get spicy because I think a lot of the times, like, there's people. Sometimes people don't like to agree to disagree, right? It's okay to have different perspectives in terms of what you expect for your life, as same well as other people expect for their life. So it's like a very interesting topic because either people get offended or they get triggered without realizing that it's a bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited about this topic because I think I actually just started learning about it. Obviously, we're raised as we know what a girl is, what a boy is, but never what our roles are really, what they really are, and then, how they can combine together, and it just makes a beautiful thing. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to dig deep down and learn myself because I think there's, like I said, I'm barely getting into this topic, learning about it. And so
it's actually really interesting because Anita and I have been having this conversation about how, like, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know, as a man. Like, there's a lot of things that I had my dad growing up like that, right? So there was a lot of things that you feel as a man as to, like, that are just in your DNA, like, being a provider, needing to protect, to provide, etc. So it's like there's a lot of things that I had to learn on my own, that I didn't have my dad would be like, okay, you're gonna feel this way because of these reasons. Or if you ever feel like you're angry, or if you ever feel like you're sad, or you're feeling this, like, have your anchors in place. So, whether it's go to the gym, go take a walk, go spend time with your friends or whatever, just to kind of decompress the mind. So I've been obsessed about all this stuff lately, and I always, sending each other videos and stuff like that. So it's actually a pretty interesting topic.
yeah, and I think in the woman perspective, it's also really interesting because it all can also affect in your relationships.
Yeah.
So it's good to know the basics of it and try to get an understanding of how everything works to just give you a better glimpse.
I think also too, like, it's really good to, like, understand, like, what type of person you are and, like, your core values, both as a man and as a woman, so that you don't kind of fall into, like, that trap of, like, today's highlighted society, right? It's like when you're an entrepreneur, everybody on social media paints the picture of, like, living this lifestyle. You get to travel, you get to do this, you have nice cars, you have nice things, which is true, right? Because I personally experienced it firsthand. But then there's also that dark side of it where it's like, the long hours, the stress, the anxiety, etc. But just kind of want to give that perspective. The reason being is because, right now on social media, obviously there's, like, it's a big trend of, girls doing OF and doing all these other things, and it's culturally accepted because it's somewhat empowerment for a woman. But in reality, it might be a lot of you that don't ever want to be that and feel weird and or feel like you don't fit in or etc. because you're not the type of person or woman that will put yourself in those situations. So obviously having this awareness and this different perspective will show you that even if it's not culturally accepted or it's not being highlighted right now on social media, what your beliefs are and what your values are still valuable within your household, and which is where they matter the most, right? So I think that's a perfect segue, to kind of go in.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we'll get started, you guys. Should we start this?
I think I kind of alley-oop you right there in terms of like, you've talked about how, being in like social media and the influencer world, you were never the type of be like, well, I don't look like that. I don't want to look like that, and kind of how that affected you. But now knowing who you are and your values, I feel like now you feel more empowered than ever because you're like, I don't need to look like that or be what society thinks is cool right now for me to feel empowered or for me to feel, whole.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. So for me, I think obviously like how he was saying, today's society is all about BBLs and, putting yourself out there. Like,
which there's nothing wrong with it before.
Yeah. Like if that's something you like to do and that's your passion and you love doing it, good for you. We're not here to judge, but for me I felt weird. I don't know, it's hard to explain because it wasn't, I didn't know who I was, right? But then seeing it all over social media, I kind of felt like I was supposed to be that, and especially because we were hanging out with a lot of influencers, so it kind of made me feel like I'm supposed to be like these women, right? Because I'm hanging around with them. I'm now looked at as an influencer, whatever you guys want to call it. And like I said in the previous video, I had comments about girls or messages telling me like, oh, you need the starter pack. Oh, you know what I mean? Like telling me they were talking smack because I was wearing the same shoes, like little things like that. And
then you wear designer or you wear all these different shoes, and people would be like, "Oh, you're just spending your money."
Exactly. That I was wearing the same shirt. I had like posted a picture with the same shirt, and I guess like 3 of my pictures were with the same shirt, and it was just like a plain white shirt, right? And so I was getting dragged, and so I was thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be these girls, but inside of me, I didn't feel right. Something didn't align with me. And obviously that came back to like my values, my morals, and I was never brought up in a household where it was, okay to like dress a certain way or put yourself out there like that. So yeah, I now, where I'm at now, I'm like, okay, now I know that I don't have to do that to feel confident. There's different ways that I found out. Like, for example, my purpose is doing my brows. That is something that gave me confidence. And it built me from within. It's hard to explain. I'm like, I can't really explain.
Do you feel like, I think the core message of this is like, do you feel like if a woman or a man understands himself or herself internally, they'll be more okay with the external noise? Because I think that's how, for the most part, we fall victims of like, again, self-induced depression, because now we're thinking like, oh, I gotta look like that guy, or I gotta be this tall, or from a woman, I gotta look like that, I gotta talk like that, I gotta show this, show that. But if that's not you internally, you kind of feel like you're in a war within yourself, because you're like, I might not want to be that, but that's what society's expectations are right now. So should I transition over to that? But even if you were to transition to that, eventually you will feel like, this is not me, But I think when you really know who you are internally, or you're aware enough, you'll understand that you won't move based on society's expectations or standards. You're making decisions based on who you are as a person internally.
Yes, I think you said it perfectly. I think when I was at war with myself, because I didn't know where I was, like who I was, who I wanted to be, it was very easy for me to fall into like society's trap, because I was thinking like, yes, I'm supposed to be this, and this is what's around me, and this is what I see on social media. So it was definitely pushing me into, I was like, oh my God, I want to be BL. I need to go get this. I need to go get that. I need to start looking like them. I need to start acting like them. I need to start talking like them, you know? And it was so easy for me to fall into that. But at the same time, I felt like when I was trying to be that, I wasn't happy. If anything, I think it made me feel a lot worse. Because I was like, oh my God, you know, now I'm...
And one thing I will say before it gets taken out of context, like, our friends have never pushed her or like made her feel some type of way for her being the way she is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
they've always been super supportive, very encouraging, even like for me, you know, as a guy too as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they've never made us feel any type of way. I think it was mainly because, like we were saying right now,
it was an internal battle.
Exactly. When you don't know who you are, you're you're like a sponge trying to see who you can become. So, you know, the closest people that are with you, you're just like, okay, I should be like this. And then obviously too, having social media had a big role on it, because like I said, I was getting DMs of people telling me like, Anita, go get a BBL, you need to do this, you need to look like them. Oh, like, how do you feel not, you know, when you don't fit in with all these girls? And I was like,
yeah, in her mind it was like, I never felt like I don't fit in. It was more of like, why are people telling me that I don't fit in? So now it's like, do I not fit in? You know what I mean?
It puts second thoughts in you. So, you know, I had more of I would say of like pressure because of social media. Like my life is so public, you know, so it allows people to give their opinions. But I can see how, you know, not being having like a big following like I did, I know how you guys can fall into that trap. As a woman, it's being pushed in your face left and right on social media. Like everywhere you go now, there's a lot of girls, you know, having BBLs, and they all look the same.
Yeah.
And so
this is gonna be a really good question. I just came up with it, right?
What?
Do you feel like women are because think about it, right now there's like this whole feminist movement and empowerment of women, but in my opinion, I think that girls are the ones that tear other girls down more than any guy could.
Yeah.
Would you agree? What's your perspective on that?
Well, it depends, right? I think I think I do. I do agree. I think women do tear each other down. And I think it comes down to, you know, a lot of women out there are very unhappy with themselves. And so whenever they do see someone, for example, a lot of women confuse when they see a woman who puts herself out there, immediately they call her, she thinks she's all that. Right? And they attack her, and then they pick out little things, when in reality, the woman that's confident and she's feeling herself, she puts herself out there. But it's like two different things, right? One, she's confident, she doesn't think she's all that. But immediately women judge her because of that. You know, if a woman walks into the room and she's beautiful face, beautiful body, she dresses nice, immediately a woman feels like threatened by her.
Well, I think that's like the how would I say it, like the wrong way to go about it, right? Because even if you take away looks, but if you leave the confidence, you leave the personality, you leave the attitude, it would still be the same thing, you know, right? But obviously for the most part, when it's like a pretty girl, she's an easy target.
Absolutely.
Right? But then at the same time, I like reverting back to like when we watched the Barbie movie, you know, a super powerful thing where it's like, you know, women encourage other women to feel empowered, to be confident, to be brave. But then the moment that they are confident, empowered, and brave, other women tear them down because, quote unquote, now that's you're making other women feel less by you being in your light. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I think for me, it's really hard to have friends because of that reason. Because a lot of women are very catty. They're very like two-faced. They'll be like, oh yes, and then behind you, they're talking all this smack about you, you know? So yes, I agree 100% with you. Like they'll encourage you until you become that, and then it's like they're tearing you down.
Yeah, because think about it, like the way that it works, it's like, it's not necessarily that it's because of that specific person, is because now that person becomes a reflection of what you aren't. And when that person becomes a reflection of what you aren't, then you start realizing like, damn, this person is a visual representation of what I've been neglecting, whether it's my health, whether it's my confidence, whether it's my appearance, whether it's the way that I speak, the way that I, carry myself. Now that's a reflection. It's a mirror.
Yep.
So now you're like, damn, this person makes me uncomfortable, because now other people can compare me to her, and now since I'm compared to her, it makes me feel weak and vulnerable, because I'm none of those things, So then that's when it's like, okay, well, let me just tear her down, or let me just say, oh, like, well, again, with like the whole BBL and like everything, right? It's easy to tear somebody down judging their physical appearance, or the way that they speak, or the way that they dress, or the way that they carry themselves, instead of addressing the fact that you're not willing to put yourself on that, at that level, or how would I say it, like in that position to be judged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So isn't that there, like I had read a thing that says what you hate in me is what's missing in you.
Yeah.
And then
And
something
when you
like
like
that.
in me, it's already inside of you.
Yes, what you what you like of me, what you like.
What you hate
No,
What you hate in me is missing in you, and what you like in me is
what's already in
inside
you.
of you. Yeah.
Yes, that is 100%. I feel like we know our insecurities. So when a pretty girl or whatever girl has what you're lacking, you immediately feel like, oh, I don't know why. I just don't vibe with her.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Immediately. I
There's
just don't
no
like
real
her.
explanation.
And then it's like, oh, but why? Like, you don't even know. Like, you could literally hate someone that you've just seen on the internet, right? Without even, like,
Knowing
actually
them or
having.
experiencing them.
Yes, by never even talking to them. And you're
Yeah.
just kind of like.
And I think, kind of adding the guy's perspective on it too, it's like, for guys, it's more of like, it's like a primitive kind of, instinctive nature when somebody's, stronger than you, or when you're like, kind of like, okay, like, because you size guys up, of like, when somebody walks in the room, it's like you see their confidence, like everything, and it's like, okay, is this person a threat to me? If so, then I'm like just cautious, you know what I mean, or whatever. But it's I think in the male perspective, it's, or maybe it's just me, like I've grown to accept it. Like I've grown to accept that as a man, it's like survival of the fittest. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a competition 24/7, just like in business, right? In business, like, it's nothing personal, but if somebody comes in and takes your clients, it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's how life goes. And I think it's also too, like on a human aspect of it, it's like, as a man, it's just what comes with being a man, and it's a super interesting,
Like a topic.
yeah, like you know what I mean? Because
I think for men it's more of like a status thing, right? Because I don't feel like men really tear themselves down when it comes to like words like, oh, he's dresses better than me. No, I think it's more of like success in business for you guys, right?
I think if it's from an immaturity standpoint, it will still be vocalized to where it's like, ay, ¿cómo se viste este güey? Oh, fíjate cómo camina.
True.
Fíjate, ya se cree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
That's
like always
true.
like these little like jabs, like indirectas, But, in terms of like the, a sense of a status, it is that, it's like, how much money you make, how you're built,
successful.
your lady, your family, like all these things, right? So it is more from that perspective than it actually is, just looks and appearances. Because, a guy can be really bad looking, but can be ultra successful, and he's still going to get, the woman that he wants.
That's true.
Because it's a status.
Even
thing.
like what was it? There's a serial killer that was like on Netflix. It's Ted
Bundy.
Ted Bundy. So it just blew my mind how even though he was a serial killer, he was like a psychopath, all these women were still trying to get at him, and it's just kind of
writing him love letters.
or even Jeffrey Dahmer. Him, same thing. People were writing letters to him when he was in prison, and people wanted to date him.
Status.
That to me is just crazy. But at the end of the day, it's all because, like you're saying, I think the status and women don't care about that. It's just very like, okay.
Well, some do, but it's
well,
just
yeah.
like,
But I'm saying the girls
it just goes out the window. Yeah.
But I'm saying the girls that were writing all these letters
Love
to
letters.
him and like wanting to get married with him. I'm like, the guy could be super ugly, right? But if he's
and a serial killer.
yeah, well, they were, they always say like all these singers, these famous people who, you know, they're big, están bien feos, but if you were to see them in the street, you would not even look
Yeah, you
their
don't
way,
even
right?
acknowledge him. But since he sings good, papacito. And it's true. Like I see
Literally.
girls like that, like on artists. It's like an older Mexican artist con su pancita, like everything, and then she's like, "Oh, papacito," and I'm like, "You just like him because he's famous and got some
Famous
attention,
status.
you know."
It's all
But then
comes
it's
down
also
to
too like
status.
I feel like from a guy's perspective, you know, it's obviously like the uncontrollables for a female is like the way that they look in their appearance, right? Obviously also too for male, but we value more like again, we're here saying like status and positioning, right? For a guy, it's like you can be ugly, but you can work your ass off to be successful, to, you know, have money, to have a status, to build a company, and then that
Still
will just go
attract
out the
girls,
window.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
That is so true. Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
How like immediately like it changes.
Yeah, but also too like, and I'll put myself in that category, right? Because I don't think I'm the best looking. Like I think I'm attractive, but you know, growing up, I was never like, oh, that kid's gonna be, you know, freaking 6'2", and you know what I mean, this and that. But I think over time, I worked a lot of myself internally to where that transmitted externally, right? So I might not be the best looking, but the way that I carry myself, that brings a different, you know, attention onto me, right, if you will. And I
The
think
confidence.
yeah, it's a confidence thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So you know, sorry to interrupt you, but you know the show Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen Selling Sunset on Netflix, it's about you know, real estate agents and stuff. And so the brokers from the show, they're really short. They're like 5 feet.
Like 5'5" or something.
No, I think they're like
They're
5
feet?
5'2" or something like that. But they're really short, right? And it's crazy because I saw like an episode where the girls were like, "Oh my God, how is it that they're so short and they can pull so many girls?" And then one of the girls said, "It's because of their confidence. That makes a guy super attractive. Whether you're 5 feet, 5'2", like." If you're confident, for some reason, that makes a girl be like, "Oh,
Well, because it's trust.
the way he carries
You know
himself."
what I mean? Because think about it, right? It's like if the way that I see it, it's like, okay, if this man is confident enough to this extent, I know that I'll be protected. You know, or I know that if a situation arises, he's gonna be confident enough to step up for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's more of that. You know,
Yeah,
it's like a
because-
safety mechanism.
Yeah, because that's what girls look for. It's to feel safety, protection, and being taken care of. So I could see that, I guess, you know. What?
Now you said this man can take care of me.
This man
type
can
of thing.
take care.
Yeah, literally, exactly that. You know, it's a protection. It's a. Let me ask you this: like, what in our dynamic, how do you feel with like our specific situation?
Like about you or what?
Yeah, like as a woman, like how do you feel like, you know, me being your partner?
I feel safe. Or is that what you?
Yeah.
I feel safe. I just know that no matter what, I can come to you. You know, like anything, like financially, emotionally, if my tire pops, you know, like that. I just feel like safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
No. I was just saying because like I feel like I want to give people context. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Of like.
I'm like, you put me on the spot. He's never asked me this, you guys. I feel like I turned red. I was like,
Yeah. Because I think one of the things I remember you telling me was like, with you, I feel like I can just shut off my brain.
oh,
You know,
yeah,
that's what you
yeah.
said.
That's what I was telling him last time, too, because I saw this TikTok where you guys probably seen it, too, where this girl was like, when I'm with my husband, my brain just shuts off completely because she doesn't have to worry about her wallet. She doesn't have to worry about her keys. She doesn't have to worry about anything or where we're going. You know, the same thing with me. I told him, I'm like, that's literally me. Like, I feel like when I'm with him, I don't ever have to worry about like, oh my God, do we have money for food? You know, the car, like he tells me we're going here and I'm like, okay, you know, and we just go. I know we're getting to the destination.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how he's gonna do it, but he's gonna get me there.
Yeah. And I think also too, like, you know, if you're somebody that's in here that, you know, you're married and you have a partner, like, you know, it's it's a teamwork effort too, right? Because as much as I would want to be better, like I think my partner should also be wanting to get better,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And that continues to build on the relationship because now you have another reason to bond, right? And
Exactly.
if, your man is, maybe he let himself go a little bit, like communicate that over to him, be like, hey, you know what? But don't communicate it. I'm like,
In a way
in
of
a way where you're
nagging.
attacking him, just be like, hey, you know what, like I think it would be a good thing if you and I kind of, maybe start being more active, maybe we start hitting the gym, let's work on ourselves, let's commit to reading a book a month, or let's commit to, getting our cardio done every single morning and eating better and doing all these things, because compounded over time, you will be that person that you're with will eventually become the person that's as close to perfect in your mind and uh, in your specific scenario, right? Because I think for the most part, when people are looking for relationships, like for example, like let's use us as an example, right? People can look at us and be like, oh, I want that, or I wish I had a partner that was like that. But in reality, like we built ourselves to this point, right? We used to be very toxic when we were young. We'd always argue, we would always break up. So same things that you guys are probably experienced or have experienced. It wasn't like this was just my personality right off the bat, and this wasn't her personality right off the bat. She was
We
very
grew.
explosive, very reactive. I was very like
Insecure.
insecure, very like emotional. So all these things, played a huge factor, but we just both committed to working on ourselves individually and on different time frames, right? I think for me,
Yeah.
I started working on myself a little bit earlier,
First.
and then I would encourage her to do the same, but it was until when she hit her growth season that she started really growing and understanding the importance of working on yourself internally, right? Because when you work on yourself internally, then everything else that could be external, like it just kind of goes out the window. It doesn't control you as much, right? Because
Yep.
you know who you are internally.
Yep.
Okay, so
Oh, Naya's here. Hi,
yeah, that's what I said
Naya.
earlier. I said now you said that.
Oh, I didn't even hear
Yeah.
that. Oh, love you too, being 47.
No,
Oh, she
fine,
said
okay.
47 and will inspire her. That is awesome.
Let's go.
Do you want to answer any questions or
I'm trying to see lots of
lots of
forgiving.
forgiving?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, so kind of going back before we steer away from
Yeah.
like the actual core message, right? I think for me, like like the gender roles is more of like a complementing each other. Like you know, I know the home aspect of things. Like she's way better at that than me. You know what I
Like the
mean?
whole what?
Like the home aspect of
Oh,
things.
home
Yeah.
aspect. Yeah.
Like when it comes to like maybe the out and about getting us to our next season or our next destination, like that's more of me. Like I'll go out there and hunt and provide and do what I gotta do, and when I come home, it's like how she says like, oh, I'm with you, I'm able to turn my brain off. With me, it's the same thing with her. It's like I know that she's my peace, like I'm not coming home her nagging me, telling me this, telling me that, like it's just like a place where I can just kind of take my armor off and then just kind of decompress and recharge for the next day.
So why do you think? Because this is very common, right? And I want to touch base on that because you just brought it up. But so like, there's a lot of relationships where the man comes home from work. If you're a stay-at-home mom, or you work part-time and you're dealing with you're staying at home with the kids, and then the dad comes home, and then the mom's like exhausted, right? And then the dad pretty much worked all day, and you come home, and I'm over here like obviously tired from work, tired from the kids, tired from cleaning, and then the dad comes, and that's why the mom starts nagging at the dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? Like, how is it because of like the miscommunication?
I don't think well, I mean, in that specific scenario, I don't think it's a miscommunication thing. It's a lack of self-awareness, right? Because it's like you're both contributing to the same mission.
I think. Do you think it's because not both genders know the roles, or like they're not
No,
working as a
I
team?
think in the way that, yeah, I think in the way that you said it, it was more of like it's from a selfish perspective, right? And I'm not saying that the woman is being selfish or the guy. It's just like one of the situations of like, hey, we're both, doing our best at this. We're both working. We're both trying to provide. We're both trying to keep our family afloat. So it shouldn't be like, hey, you didn't do this. Hey, you didn't do that. Or I've been doing this. I've been doing that. That's when you start creating the division, because it should be more of like, hey, like, how are you feeling? I'm tired. Or, like, is it cool if, maybe take like a 30-minute break, an hour, and then can you help me out with this? Or can you help me out? It's like, let's both come up with a solution that gets us to the finish line, instead of me being mad why we're not at the finish line and trying to blame it on you,
Yeah,
or
because I
vice
feel like
versa.
it goes a
Yeah.
lot of like finger
Because think about
pointings
this,
and
right? As a man, again, like I said, you're constantly putting yourself, in very stressful situations. I'm not saying that the woman doesn't either, right? But for a man, it's like you're more than likely working at a job that's physically intensive or very demanding, right? You got to deal with your boss, you got to deal with work, you got to deal with all that stress and that pressure. And then you come home, and then your wife still makes you feel like you're not enough, right? And then even after you worked your ass off, the finances might not be right. You're just living paycheck to paycheck. So now it's like a never ending cycle of like, I'm not even good at work. When I come home, I'm not even good at home. And then I don't even have enough money, and I'm working my ass off. So now repeat that over 5, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And then you're
gets
just
tiring.
like, I'm
Check
over this,
out.
regardless of what I do, regardless of how much effort and time I put into this, regardless how much I sacrifice myself, I'm never going to be enough. And then you just kind of you start falling apart from there, right? And same thing for a woman. It's like, the way that I see it, it's like a person could start it, but it's up to the both of you to finish it, right? Because, for example, if I'm not mentally aware to where I feel like, hey, you know what, like, I understand where you're coming from, but just know that this is what I'm going through at work. So me coming home, here's how I take it. You telling me this only makes me feel worse. You're like, cool, like, I'll do what you want me to do. Like, I'll still help out, but just watch the way that you communicate with me. Just watch the way that you tell me. And then now that I planted that seed in you, you're gonna be like, oh shit.
Next time, don't ask that way. Yeah,
because it was never that I have to fight with him to get this done. It could have just been a communication thing of like, hey, like, this is where we're at. Like, can you contribute a little bit? Or like, I know you're tired, but like, we need to get this done.
The way you come about
your
it.
delivery.
The delivery, yeah.
And that's something that we dealt with a lot,
Yeah.
because every time I literally just, that scenario that I gave you guys, it was kind of like what I was going through, not in its entirety, but it was one of the things where I was like, I'm already stressed out and with my business. I already know I got expenses to pay. I already got to deal with this client. I got to deal with so-and-so. I got to pay this. I got to pay that. And then I was coming home, and then it was like nagging, or at least that's the way that I was processing it at that time. And then it just got to the point where I was just like, all right, like, I'm over this. Like, I'm never going to be enough, And for a period of time, I started feeling like that. I was like, man, like, I work my ass off. I provide. I don't talk to no other girls. I don't keep my phone hidden from her. I don't do this. I don't do that. I was as close to perfect as you could be, but I was still being nagged. And I'm like, you know what I mean? I was like, what else do I need to do, right? And then that compounded over time. Then obviously it kind of creates that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. I was literally going to say something and I completely forgot. I was gonna literally say that. Yeah. So I think it's because the woman then feels like she becomes the mom.
Yeah. It's also like, oh, I shouldn't have to. That's
What
like,
do
you
mean?
should. Because I feel like a lot of times when people kind of do those things, it's like, I shouldn't have to tell you. I shouldn't have to do
yeah,
this.
no, that
it's just
is
like,
true.
It's like an unspoken expectation.
Yeah, I think, well, it's because women and men function completely different too. And that's why we have all these expectations, or we start assuming like, oh, well, I thought you should know that you should be doing this.
Yeah.
When a lot of times the men is just like, what the heck? Like, I mean, it's all over TikTok too, where all the women say like, I've seen those all the time, like, oh, why didn't he take out the trash? And it's like, what the heck? Like, I didn't even know I was supposed to take out the trash.
Yeah.
It was never communicated to
Yeah.
me, So it comes down to like, I guess, communication, But Naya said 100 out of 100, regardless of gender roles, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's true.
Agree. Because a lot of people say like 50-50.
No.
They're like, oh, 50-50.
Well, in a relationship, I would say it's like 100% commitment from both, right? There is gender roles for a reason. Like, we all serve a specific purpose within the household, right? But I think for the most part, and I don't want to sound crazy, but if you really analyze like the way that things have kind of come down, everything is more expensive. Obviously, inflation, especially if you live in California, there's a necessity for the woman to need to work, right? Or has been pushed to the point where you need both parents in order to be able to provide and just survive, right? But I think in essence, if things weren't the way that they are right now, like even a man, just working, not even being highly successful or this and that, would be able to provide for the family, right? So that the mom can, nurture the kids and make sure that the kids are
Taken
good,
care of.
that they're educated, that they have morals, that they have values. But obviously, as things get more expensive, like
It's
now the
hard.
woman is having to contribute and to provide. And I'm talking about it out of necessity, not out of, want, right? So there's a difference. I'm talking
Yeah.
about necessity as of right now for the majority of population, right? And I think that removes the whole aspect of like having values and morals as children, right? So the generation that you're seeing right now is that generation that had to have the mom that worked, had to have the dad that worked and
Yeah.
was working, 2 3 jobs in order just to be able to survive. So this whole generation doesn't understand morals, doesn't understand that it's a team collaborative effort and not just, trying to see who's right and who's wrong. And I think that's what we're going through a lot right now, to where it's like, hey, you're not doing this, therefore I'm better than you, or you're not capable enough of sustaining this. So it's just a lot of like other factors that for the most part people don't consider when it comes to like the gender roles. um but yeah, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's true. Well, I think now too, like values and morals are getting lost for
Yeah.
the same reason, like you said. I think also too, um,
Well, I think
like,
and the reason, here's the reason why, right? Because there still yet hasn't been a repercussion for this era's decisions and choices,
ooh, yeah,
right?
agree.
Because we're not really gonna realize the impact of this exact situation that we're going on right now as a society till like 10, 15, 20 years from now,
It's
right?
true. Yeah.
Once we see that, we're gonna realize like, damn, we're really messed up. You know what I mean? It was really bad,
Yeah.
especially with all these girls doing OF because that's how they're getting money, and so they value themselves based on their ability to be able to use their body to get money, right? That's a form of status now, but they don't realize that just how like adult stars maybe made a bad decision back then, to where now they see that the effect that it has on their children, or how their kids are being picked on, or now nobody wants to marry them because they've been with so many guys. Then it's understandable, right? But for the most part right now, we're in a society where people think that this is empowerment for a woman, which it isn't. It actually diminishes your value and your worth to somebody that would be a person that would be fitting for you in terms of like being a provider, being a protector, making sure that you're taken care of, making sure that you're
Ooh,
this.
yeah.
Since that yet hasn't happened and hasn't unfolded, there's a lot of people just living right now in the moment while saying, oh, well, I'm in my bag or I'm doing this. But
I'm in my prime time right now.
once that season is over and you grow in awareness and perspective and maybe you start a family, you're going to realize how much of a mistake that was.
Yeah. Damn. That's true. That's crazy. But you're spitting fire right now. Like all the girls over here, like learning from you.
No, because it's all it is awareness, like
Yeah.
we were literally we went to Tacos El Gordo like a couple hours ago, and we're just talking about different perspectives, right? In terms of like, just awareness and, what's normal and what isn't based on our culture, circumstance, and environment, right? It's like, for example, like as a man, it's more commonly seen as an okay thing for a man to cheat than a woman to cheat, right? And if you analyze that, it isn't because it's right, it's because it's what was culturally a standard growing up, especially being Hispanic,
Yeah.
right? So it's like if you saw that your grandpa had his wife but then had two side chicks, he was the man, you know what I mean? So it was a form of status.
That's
So if you
crazy,
grew up
huh?
during that time and that era, you can see how that can be a okay, maybe not an okay thing to do, but it's something that is acceptable, right? You're not seen as bad as if during that generation a woman would have done that. Should have been like, oh, she's this, she's a,
This,
this is the
yeah.
worst of the worst. You're like, excluded from everybody. But
Yeah.
again, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just that's what's commonly known, You know, it's
Yeah.
part of our culture.
It's part of our culture, and then it just trickles down to today's generations, I
Yeah.
guess, and then that's all the and then that's how I was telling him it's now our job, to instill in our kids what's okay and what's not, to still hold their values or morals and breaking those generational curses. It's just a lot. I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
a
it's
never
just
ending.
it's never ending for
Yeah, I wouldn't say
sure.
there's like it's like a right or wrong. Obviously, there is a right or wrong, but like in the terms of we're all just trying to navigate life the best we can, right?
Yeah.
With what things we were taught, with our environment, the things that we picked up from our environment, the things that our parents told us, the things that we saw firsthand. Like especially now with the world on social media, for the most part, these girls don't see the repercussion of what could happen because they just live in a digital world to where it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
so
it's
crazy.
it's so easy for me to I just do this and I get money. Why? Because there's no exchange or like a physical
Yeah, it's like I'm not doing
transaction.
anything wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that mentality of like, if I'm already, going to the beach in a bikini and then like showing off my body, why am I not showing and getting paid for it? It's like that mentality. You know what
100%.
I mean?
No, yeah.
The Martinez said, "Do you think it's wrong that I'm teaching my 5-year-old grandson to open up the door for me because I'm a woman? I want him just to learn. It's
No, that's a
not
beautiful
wrong."
thing. But
Yes.
even think about that, right? Like even now, like if you I've watched videos, right, where guys can still be courteous and then girls just for the attention be like, oh, this guy's a creep. He opened my door, or he gave me my cup. Oh, he said hi to me. Oh, he's, you know what I mean? So now it's like girls want guys to be, still very, what is that word?
What?
Like very como caballeroso.
Oh, like a gentleman.
Yeah, girls want guys to be gentlemen, but then when guys are gentlemen, they seem as like weirdos or like, oh, he's trying to hit on me or whatever, right?
That's so
And
true.
so
They
it's like
mistaken it
they
by.
missed. Yeah, well, it's not that. It's just like right now we're just in a society where like guys are having to defend themselves for, just being guys. Just in general. It's like if I say, you know what, I think my wife, should be at home taking care of the kids, and if she's okay with that, then I'm bad, right? Because I've conditioned her, or I'm oppressive to her, or I'm not allowing her to be what she wants to be because I have this expectation of her needing to be a stay-at-home mom, right? It's like if that's okay within my household, like what makes that right? If she's happy, what
That's
makes it
all.
wrong? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I'm not saying it based on us, but it's like we have to be okay with people making the decisions that best suit them without that judgment or criticism of like if it's not my way then it's no way,
It's no
right?
way. Yeah. I think that's so true. There's a lot of, especially for our culture. I
Yeah,
feel like we're
that's just this
so
generation in general.
yeah,
You know what
it's
I mean?
true.
It's like everybody just wants to be offended. Everybody just wants to,
Play the
for the,
victim
yeah,
card.
play the victim for the dumbest things. It's like I saw a video, and it's there's a quote that I really love, and it's extremely powerful. And I think if you ingrain this in your brain, you'll start to see life through a completely different lens, right? We
What is
we
it?
live life through cycles, right? There's a quote that says, "Strong men create no wait, it's tough times create tough men. Tough men create weak times. Weak times create weak men. Weak men create tough times, and tough times create weak men." Right? So it's a cycle. It's a repetition. So because things have been so easy over these last couple of years, right now everybody has the luxury to be offended about gender, about this and that, and protect the trees, and this and that. It's a luxury. My mom always says, like yo no tuve el lujo de tener depresión. I didn't have the luxury to be depressed,
Ooh,
right? Because
that's
that
hard.
if you're trying to take care of your kids, you're trying to provide, you're going through tough times, you're not gonna sit there and worry about, if I say that that shirt is a zebra or it's a
Leopard.
panda instead of a zebra, like, and if you say that it's a zebra, I'm gonna be offended. Like, that's a luxury to be able to have the time to be able to sit there and argue about something so simple, right?
That's true.
And so the more that you're able to see life through that lens, you will understand that it's a cycle and it's only going to pivot and shift from where we're at right now.
A whole different perspective.
Yeah.
It's just like victimizing.
Yeah, right now
That's
everybody's
like no,
we're in the victim era.
And nobody's taking responsibility for their actions, and it's like everything that's happening to them, they feel like they can go and cry about it just because society's now made it kind of like a shield. They'll fall into
that right there is a perfect example.
What?
You should have cleaned your window before you started. Like,
oh my god, you put her on blast. Okay, tell me.
It's like one of those things where it's like, and this is a problem too with like the internet, right? It's like everybody's so quick to just say shit. Like we literally at the beginning of the thing we said, you know, this was Aiden.
And she
like,
probably wasn't.
We knew.
Yeah.
No. Like it's like we knew that it was dirty, right? But then when people are so picture perfect, people are always like, oh, they fake it. Oh, they this and that. But then when we're just like everybody else, then people pick at it. Like I'm sure you have a dirty sock under your couch somewhere, but you know, you're over here trying to, you know what I mean? There's a quote that says, before you worry about the plank on, like, como dice? Like, before you worry about the plank on somebody else's size, make sure that you remove the speck in your eye.
Oof.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so
like,
true. Like how perfect are you that you can feel like you can come and criticize.
Like
and
this is real.
Yeah, no,
like,
and to me, like that, it was just kind of like, that's the least of our worries. It's not even the message that you're getting. Like that's the most important thing. You know, if you're here to judge the window rather than like really sit here
and see what we're saying
and analyze the, you know, the conversation and get something positive out of it. It's just crazy to me. But, you know, this is what we deal with. This, and like Jose was saying, even if we try to make it picture perfect,
somebody
people are going to be like,
you should move the light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that is exactly what, this is a perfect example of like what's wrong with today's society, right? I can be the person that could change your life, but you'll still worry about how wrong my hat fits. Or you'll worry about me having a tattoo. Or you'll worry about me having ripped jeans. Oh, because he has ripped jeans, I'm not going to listen to him.
Yeah.
You know, that's where this is
problem.
exactly where we're at. Like people are so quick to judge and be judgmental. And again, I get it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's part of our culture. Sometimes it's part of our upbringing. It's part of the things that, you know, we go through as a society and we're conditioned to. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to be better, right? Like como dicen, like treat other people how you want to be treated, right? If you, and for the most part too, the reason why sometimes people are like that is because that's what they receive at home, you know, and it's what they give. So sometimes you give what you receive. So maybe you want people to stop being negative towards you, then stop being negative towards other people. If you want to feel less judged, judge less. You know?
That is like a huge one. Judge less to feel less judged, because a lot of times we are so quick to judge people, and whenever you do try to put yourself out there, you can't, and that's because you think everybody thinks like you, everybody judges like you, when in reality it's like you could literally be picking your nose in front of 100 people and they're probably, you know, not even looking at you. They're busy on their phone. They're busy writing something. They're busy thinking about something else. But because you're that type of person that judges, you're like, oh, they're going to judge me. And that was like a big, for me, when I heard that, I was like, that is so true. Because a lot of times we do project our insecurities onto everybody, whether it's your kids, your family, like anyone, we project our insecurities to everybody. That's huge. Once you see that, you're gonna catch yourself being like, oh snap. Like a lot of times my mom, she's afraid of me driving. She used to be so scared of me driving to LA by myself, because she's like, es que eres mujer y qué tal si te pasa. Like those are her biggest fears, and she was projecting them onto me. And if anything, it was just making me feel insecure. And I was like, oh my God, like doubting myself. And if she would have been like, no, see mija, you go, you do it and have fun and just be safe, I would have felt the confidence to be like, okay, I can actually go. But my mom is a very like, and I've noticed that because she's is bien miedosa ella. She, like any little thing, even with like Aiden, if he's running, she's like, se va a caer, you know, like she starts freaking out. I'm like, Mom, it's okay. You know, if he falls, he falls. That's part of life. He'll get up, brush himself, and it's okay. But she's a very like anxious and fearful person, so she projects her insecurities onto to the people around her.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, like I started getting that.
Under that perspective.
Yes, exactly. So
Naya said, "What do you think? What do you guys think about love language?"
I think
I,
those are really important.
yeah, I think that's a really good thing to add on into, like,
Naya is
the
killing it over
roles,
here.
right? Naya and I had this conversation. Remember when we came out here? So I was, for me, take it as you will, but I love Andrew Tate, right? I don't agree with everything that he
Right.
says, or sometimes in the way that he delivers it, but there's an intention in the way that he delivers it because he knows it's got to get attention, right? But that's a whole different story. But I was talking to my sister about that, and this is going off topic of the whole love language thing, right? But it's like a lot of the times, like, we're not capable of hearing something that might initially triggers us, and we just want to react and respond instead of taking a step back and really analyzing, like, the full picture of things, right? And that's one of the, I think that's a characteristic that you can build, right? Whether it's with your partner, whether it's at work, whether it's in your business, whether it's in anything, right? You know, when I was at this new level of my business, there was a period of time where I grew to where now I was working with people that are doing $1 million a month, 6 figures a month, and I'm like, damn, I thought I was doing good. You know what I mean? I thought I was crushing it. And then it made me feel like, because I lacked in certain areas of my business, some of my clients will come at me at like, yo, like, what's up with this? Or like, how come this isn't done yet, right? And I could have been the person that was like offended and be like, nah, this person's too hard to work with, da da da. And I was just giving up, right? But instead I was like, okay, he has a point, like, I am missing this. I am missing systems. I am missing these things, or how can I level up so that this doesn't happen anymore, right?
You started taking the constructive
I started taking
criticism.
accountability, and I started taking, the ability to be able to sit in something that I might not yet agree with at first, but process it enough to where I can understand it, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. At the end, I know that I sat in it and I processed and I analyzed it to the full extent, and then I made my decision or my choice, right? And for the most part, even with bringing up the whole Andrew Tate situation, it's like, like I said, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, but that's just across the board with anybody, right? Even some of my first mentors, they always taught me, like, take the good, leave the bad. Leave the stuff that you admire about somebody. For example, with him, I admired a lot the fact that he was self-accountable. He took responsibility for himself. He provides, he protects. He knows that everything that happens or doesn't happen to him is his fault. It's your responsibility as a man, knowing that nobody's going to come and save you, so, but we all have the characteristics and the ability to bring the best version of ourselves out if we work continuously and putting in the effort and the time to build up ourselves to what we ultimately want to be, right? Obviously, there's certain things that he's said and done that I personally don't agree with, but who is perfect? I can't sit here and tell you, oh, I've been picture perfect my entire life and I've never made a mistake. I've never done this. I've never done that. But that's who we are as individuals, right? And the only people that should be judging and criticizing people like him in any area of life, whether it's a man or a woman, it's the people who are perfect, and nobody is. You know what I mean?
I think it's important to also know that it's okay, like Jose was saying, to listen to people to the full extent, and then you don't have to agree with everything people say, right? Like, for example, Andrew Tate, there's a lot of things that he says, and like Jose was saying, that we don't necessarily agree on. But that the good thing is that you can, and it doesn't have to be just Andrew Tate, it could be literally anyone, where you can take the things that you feel like aligned with who you are and your values and your morals, and you take that. You know what I mean? And not necessarily be like, oh, I have to do exactly everything he does, everything he says. No, you don't want to do that, right? You always want to, whoever it is that you're willing to talk to, you listening to, it's important you listen to what they say, take what suits you, what fits you, what's going to help you take you to the next level, to take you to that next, you want to be that person, right? Just take the good out of it. So
things aren't like one size fits all, it's just like shoes, You know, if you wear a size whatever, you're not gonna fit in a size larger. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with people, with personalities, with ideas, with looks, with everything, right? It's never gonna be a one size fits all, right? It's like there's no such thing as perfection, but you can take, how Anita said, take the good from certain people, run with that, and then
Just,
leave everything else, you
yeah.
know? And for the most part, people are like, if this person doesn't align with 100% of my things, like he's a bad person.
Yeah,
you know, or let's
exactly.
tear them down. And I think that was like one of the biggest, you know, think about this, right? Like there's still people to this day that think that he did what he was quote unquote arrested for, but he hasn't been arrested for it.
There's
He
like
hasn't
no
been
proof.
tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, but people are still wanting to destroy him just because they don't agree with the things that he says. I think that's unfair. You know what I mean? It's like if I say, you know, my laptop is blue and you say it's red, and because I don't agree with you, I deserve to go to jail. I deserve to be killed. Or I deserve to be this, or I deserve to be that. Like how does that make sense? You're
Yeah.
the
crazy one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You're the one that's
Yeah. I think we
wrong.
skipped Naya's question
Yeah,
though,
sorry,
the
I
love
just-
language. No, I think it's really important. You know, I think it's important, you know, your significant other's love language, because at the end of the day, you want to make them happy. You want to make them feel appreciated, feel loved. And it's really important that you take the time to know what it is that they enjoy, you know, so that they can feel that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of my struggles, because again, I was just so like, I gotta survive kind of thing, right? When she was trying to like make me aware of, you know, like love languages and all, for me, I was like, I don't need emotion right now. I don't need emotion right now. I need to be tough. I need to grind it out. I need to suck it up, and I need to get shit done, you know? But obviously now, you know, being in a better headspace, you know, both mentally, spiritually, and financially, it's like, now I understand, you know what I mean? Because I do have needs. And the reason why I say that is because like, even in my business, even though I love my business, I still want to take time off from it. You know, I still want to detach from it. So similar to a relationship, it's like, even though I need to feel like I'm protecting and I'm providing, I still want to be loved by her. I still want to be quote unquote pampered. I want to be able to be hugged by her, and, you know, have her cook me a meal. Or like today in the morning, she woke me up with breakfast in bed, and I wasn't even expecting it. So it's like, I love those little things, you know what I mean? But a lot of times when you're grinding it out and sucking it up, it's like you kind of don't really put importance into those until you really realize that those things are important. And those are some of the things that matter the most, right? It's like, I don't need for her to cheer me or this and that, but I do love when she's like, hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, like, thank you for being so hardworking. Hey, thank you for doing this for us and the kids. Like, and I'm like, oh, damn.
Words of
You know,
affirmation.
yeah, it's like, I like this. You know what I mean? Because I do sacrifice myself a lot, you know? And even though I understand and I truly believe that it's my responsibility and it's something that I genuinely like doing regardless of the pressure and the stress that comes with it, but there's also that other side of me that's like, I just want to feel appreciated. You know what I mean?
And I think everybody does, you know, deep down, everybody does. But a lot of times, you know, depending on how you were brought up, we're good at like numbing that and wanting not to, you know, because especially for a man, I think it's hard for them to feel like they want to be vulnerable. So, you know, it's kind of hard and even for a woman, it's hard to try to pamper you or cater to you when there's no emotion. You know what I mean? So it's hard to break that wall down if it's just like this, you know. But it's so important that you communicate. Or for example, him, you know, like he likes words of affirmations, like, and I'm always trying to remind him, you know, you're doing a great job, because even earlier you were like beating yourself down, you know, because you know, his business and taking time away from the kids. And I always tell him, like, you're doing an amazing job. If you weren't, like, trust me, I would have called you out on it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important, you guys, to know the person's love language. Super
yeah, and it's
important.
never going to be perfect. You know what I
Never,
mean?
yeah.
I think we're always trying to find balance, but it's not about finding balance. It's just understanding what needs to be prioritized at specific periods of our life, you know. And one of the things that I was telling her earlier and that I was kind of feeling, it's like, you know, when I'm on the weekend with them and I give them all my attention, I'm like, damn, I should have been on my business. I should have been doing this. I could have been ahead. I could have been doing that. And I beat myself up for it, right? But then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday happen, or I'm on a trip with a client, and then I'm like, damn, I should have been more time with the kids, you know? So it's like a super hard battle, but I also know that, I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm trying to navigate through it, you know, and I'm just trying to get a different input and perspective. So whenever I say these things out loud, isn't because I'm in a season where I need to give up or I'm trying to like quit on something. It's more of like, hey, hear me out, and then let me process the way that I'm saying it to see that when I process it, it now sounds different. Or if when I say it and you give me a different perspective, that gives me another perspective to be able to be like, okay, like it's not as bad, and let's just keep going. You know what I mean?
It's a reassurance, and that's why it's so important to have like a partner, you know, because whenever you do feel like you're not going the right direction, or if you feel lost, confused, like just having that person to kind of give you that reassurance that like everything's good, our family's good, keep going. You know, sometimes you need that.
What do you feel like is your number one love language?
Physical touch. Yeah, like I need to be touched and like hugged, and that's how I feel loved, you know. And then that kind of brings to the next question: how do you go about when someone's love language is physical touch, and you're not the type to be so affectionate or advice? I think Anita touched a little about this one of your videos.
I'll go ahead and answer that, right? Because I think sometimes for me, it's like I kind of, I'll not feel victim, but I wasn't aware enough to understand that yes, I can love my family the way that, how do I say this? Like, I was trying to love my family from just making sacrifices, right? And for me, it's like, don't you see how much I love you? Like, look at everything that I put myself through. Look at all the things that I do for us. Look at all this and that. I wasn't saying it like that, but it's like, that's in essence what it was, right?
Do you think you were loving me the way you wanted to, the way you liked? How do I say it?
It's not like that. Like the way that I'm trying to explain, it's like I was trying to express love through a format,
like an act of service way.
Yeah, that had more. How would I say it? Like
more impact.
No. Like,
or what?
I don't know. Like, for example, I was trying to show love in a way that didn't feel like love. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Does that make sense? To where it's like,
Kind
for
of.
example, like you say, it's like, oh, physical touch, right? It's like, I think for me, sacrificing myself, my peace, my mind, you know, all this
is bigger
than physical touch.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
At least that's how I perceived it. Obviously, now knowing better, it's like, it's a difference. You know what I mean? It's not. It even though in my mind it might rank higher, that doesn't necessarily mean that it does for you. You know.
And I think that's where a lot of people think, like, kind of what she was saying. You know, if you're not an affectionate person, but your significant other is, you have to be willing to make that sacrifice. And that's what happens when you decide to be in a relationship, guys. A lot of times people go into relationships thinking like, this is who I am and they need to adapt to me, and you know, I'm not going to change and this and that. No, when you go into a relationship, there's going to be a lot of sacrifices, and there has to be how do you say that word?
A balance.
Not a balance, but like compromise.
Oh, compromise.
You guys are gonna have to compromise, you know. So for example, if you're not an affectionate person, but your significant other loves physical touch, you're gonna have to, if you really want to be with that person and you love them, you're gonna have to learn how to meet them halfway, right? That's gonna be a sacrifice that you're gonna have to do. And you're gonna have to feel uncomfortable, and you're gonna have to go through, you know, I don't know, go on YouTube, go on TikTok, on Google, on how you can show your love, but you're gonna have to do it. And it's all about compromising, you know?
I agree. And I think it's...
because for example, when he was doing all of that, to me, I could care less. Like, we could be living in the dumpster, you know, but I'm just happy with him hugging me, him kissing me, like I'm good. As long as he's all up on me, like I'm good. We could live literally in the dumpster. You know what I mean?
And the way that I saw it, it was more of like, yeah, that sounds cool in theory, but that's not like what's gonna keep us afloat.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that was my provider, head of household, protector aspect of my brain, right? Where it was like, yeah, emotion sounds cool, but it isn't what's gonna save us. It isn't what's gonna get us ahead. It isn't want to keep us afloat. You know what I mean?
Like more of a realistic.
Yeah.
And not, it's not like, it was just in a context where I'm, putting it, but obviously I wouldn't be like,
No.
you know what I mean? Like I know, I don't expect you to be like 100% all up on me. Like I get it, but when we do have our times, like it's like, I just want that love,
And obviously now it's different, but I'm just saying like during that specific time period, I think that's kind of how I was processing it, right? Because I was still trying to figure that out, I was still trying to figure out if we were even going to make, like that was overtaking my complete, brain capacity.
Yeah. No, and I get it. I think now that we've had the time to kind of go back into, a lot of the things that compiled to leading us to breaking up, now that we have had the year and a half to analyze the situation and what we could have done different and where we lacked on. I see that, and now I'm like, I get it. You were under a lot of stress, and it takes a lot to have your family on top of your business. It's like you have employees, and taking a big cut out of your business, like I get it. There's like no te sale to even be like affectionate because you're just so stressed, and everybody's, the way we stress is completely, we all take it out differently. So like now I get it, but at the time going through it, because there was no communication, it was just like, for me, it just felt like I wasn't good enough. And it was kind of like, does he not love me? Because there was like no physical touch, you know what I mean? So it's, and then again, we go back to like the importance of communication. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it's like one of those things where it's like, you don't really process them until it already passed. You know what I mean? And I think obviously, like, at least I'm super grateful that, obviously we were able to work it out and come back now even together, better and stronger. But during that specific season, it was kind of like you said, right? I was being realistic. I was just like, there's no time for this. There's no time for that, when I'm trying to make sure that you guys are okay. Exactly. Right. And to me, that was like my extreme way of like showing maximum capacity of love. You know what I mean? But obviously that wasn't what was needed at that specific time. Somebody said something that was really dope. That was like, where is it? I think it was Naya. Naya said something around the lines of, I learned that depending on your love language, you tend to do the opposite. You're feeling down, for example, physical touch, isolating yourself. Love languages are also important to know, so you can understand how you can understand. Yeah. So for example, like me, when I'm under, like, this is exactly what happened with us. It's like when I was under so much pressure, I just isolate myself because I'm like, okay, let me isolate myself, let me gather myself, and then I'll go at it again, But for her, it was like, he's isolating himself. That means he doesn't love me, It was like a different perspective. Yeah. Yeah, but
damn, Naya is so woke, you guys. Naya, that's Jose's sister. She's what, 15?
No. That was like 10 years ago.
Why do I feel like she's still 15?
No, Naya is, I want to say 20.
There's no way Naya is 20. Naya, you are not 20. Girl, no way. Anyways, Naya, you guys, she's very mature for her age, and you guys can see like her conversations, the way she loves to do a lot of like self-reflection and obviously her 20. Awareness.
Yeah, and I think
19, almost 20.
Here's something that I will say, and I have this conversation with Anita. Like, one of the things that I struggle with is, like, I wouldn't say struggle with, but it's gonna sound pretty harsh, right? Like, I know my sister, she's gone through a lot, like she went through the same thing that I went through with my dad. But I know the person that those situations made me and helped me become, And as much as I would want to save my sister, I even do this with with Mila and Aiden, it's like they might fall, but I gotta let them fall. You know what I mean? But with my sister, one of the things that I love about her is that she's always constantly seeking higher awareness, right? And so because of that, I know she's gonna be an amazing woman. She's gonna go and do great things, right?
Yep.
Without me, and that's one of the things that, I kind of want to give you your flowers, Naya. I know it's completely out of,
Not real flowers, by the way.
topic, but like, I know that everything that you've gone through, like, is gonna make you such an amazing woman. Like, you're super strong. Obviously, there's sometimes where that personality is gonna make you fall and is gonna make you get some bruises and scrapes. But eventually, once things are said and done, you're gonna realize that everything that you went through and the trials and tribulations that you went through were for a reason, and they were meant to mold you and turn you into the person that I know you're gonna be. So I just wanted to give you your flowers. I know I don't say this often, but I'm proud of you. I'm proud of how you step up for your mom and Dieguito, and the things that you do that nobody sees. Just wanted to honor you and tell you that I'm proud of you. And I
I'm
know
gonna cry.
things are gonna as even though things have been hard, trust me, when things are said and done, you're gonna be like, I'm grateful that I went through everything that I went through, because I realized who I was truly meant to be in this world, who the superpower that I now get to feel and get to share, whether it's with your mom, whether it's with Diego, whether it's your partner, your mutual friends, whoever that might be. You're somebody that's going to impact a lot of people because you have the awareness and you have the capacity to look internal, to be able to see that the things that you went through actually helped you and benefited you, and then you'll be able to communicate that over to a bunch of people. So I love you and I'm proud of you.
Oh, Minaye. She said, I'm proud of you guys. I love you guys so much. You guys are amazing role models. Los amo tanto. We love you, Naye. We love you so much.
She's probably already crying.
I know. I was like, she probably screen recorded this.
Yeah, my sister's tough, but she's also very emotional.
Just like you, though.
Yeah.
You guys can see Jose, but he's still like, tiene un corazoncito de pollo. I always
Yeah.
tell him that.
It's
And I
a
love
hard-
that about him.
Yeah.
I love, and let's bring that back, because I think with the whole masculinity, like a lot of men want to like be tough and not wanting to show their emotions because we're
It's
different.
required. You know what I mean? It's required for
What's
sure.
required?
Like
Not
being
show
tough.
your emotions?
No,
Oh.
not showing your tough, but just being tough. But sometimes choosing to be tough turns off a version of yourself that shouldn't be turned off. You know what I mean? And I think is that?
Es chillón
Sí,
también.
no, not anymore.
Sí, cierto.
No.
He's like, no. Ahorita, ¿quieren que lo haga chillar?
No, I
Raise your hand
appreciate
if you
this.
want. I'm just kidding.
What was I saying? My mind went blank.
Damn.
Oh yeah, the being tough and being
Yeah.
yeah. So I think a lot for a lot of men, right? It becomes a thing where it's like it's either this or either that, right? Instead of being an and, it's I can be tough while still be in touch with my emotions. And being in touch with my emotions doesn't mean that I'm crying every single day and I'm like, being this, like telling these people all these things, like, I'm not out here being cursi, but that means like I can still, be like literally what I just did with my sister. I think that's the purest form of me being emotional that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I love giving people their flowers. I love being able to tell them, their gifts, their passions, how proud I am of them. If you're somebody that I care about, I'll tell you that I love you. And that for me is the purest form of me being vulnerable, right? But then that's also one of the things that I struggle with a lot, even though it's my superpower, it's still also one of the things that I struggle with the most, of who to be vulnerable with and when to be vulnerable, and understanding that, there's going to be situations where I choose to shut it off because of certain situations or circumstances. But at the end of the day, that's who I am as a person, and yes, me being tough, me having a barrier of me being protective and analytical, that hinders me from also being a part of me that makes me too,
Yeah, I agree. Gigi asked, I don't know if at a time, Anita, you were a stay-at-home mom, and Jose the breadwinner. But now that you both bring income, do you feel like those masculine and feminine roles say per se?
Is it? Or time you were staying home mom right now? Wait, let me read that again.
I don't know if at a time. You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it.
Okay, so it says, I don't know if at a time, Anita, you were a stay-at-home mom and Jose the breadwinner. But now that you both bring income, do you feel like those masculine and feminine roles say per se? I meant say those roles change.
No.
No.
I think so. So in our specific situation, it wasn't out of necessity. It was out of something that she wanted to do, right? A lot of the times when a woman needs to step up to be able to provide, she becomes somewhat masculine, right? Because she now has to step up into a version of herself that is not as feminine and as nurturing and, you know, traditional, right? But I think in our specific situation, it was more of her finding herself, finding her passion, and, you know, now feeling even more empowered because she finally has found that purpose. You know, she can be a mom, but at the same time, she can be an entrepreneur. She can be a business owner. She can be in her passion. So I think that's my perspective. What do you think?
You said it perfectly. I'm like, am I the one you saying that? You said it perfectly. Nah, for sure. I think, I feel like I've always been in my feminine energy, because we've been dating since we were
16.
Like 14. No,
Well, we've been talking since we were 14.
Yeah, so we've been talking since we were 14, but we didn't start dating since we were 16. But Jose has always been a gentleman. He's always been in like very romantic, very loving, very caring. When he started working, literally his paycheck would come just for me, like food, pick me up. He got his car and he like would pick me up from high school, drop me off to work, pick me up. So I feel like I've always been in my feminine energy, if that makes sense. Like I've always been taken care of with him. And that was something very hard because when we broke up, it was like, whoa, like you know, and I shared this on my last video. I didn't even know how to book a freaking flight. I didn't even know how to put the electricity or the water under my name because I had never done anything like that. You know, it even came down to like me driving to LA. Like that was like super scary for me because I've always been in my feminine energy, and he's always been like your masculine energy. You know, he's always been very like providing for us and taking care of us. I think it was like once that, you know, I had to step up and take care of him, but we didn't have kids. I think we were young too, and I've always worked, so it didn't even feel like I was in my masculine energy because you know, it wasn't like big bills or anything like that. Like I didn't feel like it was a big overhead over our shoulders. But what was I going with this? Oh, so yeah, she was asking. So no, I don't think anything has changed. You know, if anything, like he asked me earlier, when I'm with him or, you know, in our relationship, I feel like I'm very safe to where like if I didn't, let's say, you know, tomorrow, like my business dies or, you know, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't feel like I have to step up and be like, oh my God, you know, how am I going to provide? Like, cause I know he's got us, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
but you see how he explained it was like perfectly, like I know now, you know, obviously I'm doing it because it gives me a sense of purpose. It fulfills me, and that's what keeps me alive, what keeps me happy, what keeps me sane. You know, that's the way I recharge, honestly. Like when I'm at my studio, like that's a way of me having me time. And a lot of people are like, no, like that's work. And I'm like, no, like it's a passion. I love it. It's like creating art for me. So I'm there. And obviously there's times where I have, you know, stressful days. Yes. But for the most part, I'm always very happy. I love it. I feel like I recharge, obviously, like physically. You know, my body takes, like my shoulders hurt, my wrist. But other than that, I feel good. Like I'm like, okay, you know, I went in today, I did some bomb brows, and it gives me a a sense of confidence and
accomplishment too.
Yeah, so I do it because I love it, and it, you know.
Yeah, I think yeah. No, I think what was I gonna say? So yeah, so I was gonna say basically like I think the time where things would change again is if it came out of like pain, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that's when you have to step in into like a forced role that you're not to still be able to provide and you know
Yeah. And I think
and do
it's
all those
also
things.
too important though. Like, it's crazy to me how there's a lot of men out there that are way into their feminine energy.
Mm.
And I didn't know this until I was like having a conversation with my niece, and she was in a relationship where she was in her masculine energy, where she was like planning everything,
Mm.
you know. And to me at that time, I didn't know what masculinity, femininity, like none of that, you know. And so
Mm.
she was telling me like, I've been in my masculine energy. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, how can a girl be in her masculine energy? And
Mm.
again, because I've never had to go through that, it was really hard for me to understand. So she was telling me like, yes, so I'm the one that plans out our dates. I'm the one that tells them like, buy me flowers. She was the one to initiate everything.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Cause when we go on dates, Jose plans everything from the restaurant, from how we're getting there. Like he would plan everything. You know, he picked me up in a Lambo. He would rent out like these cars just to give me an experience. So for me, it was like, well, shouldn't every man do that? But you know, when I started talking to other people, I was like, oh, snap, hold on. And then my niece was telling me that, you know, there's men who even tell you, like, when they're so much in their feminine energy, they'll be like, when you tell them, like, how come you don't buy me flowers? They'll be like, well, how come you don't buy me flowers? It's crazy, but
Mm.
that's the reality. This is the society we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Men, because a lot of men don't know the roles as a masculinity or masculine. Now we're having men wanting to feel taken care of. I guess they're so in their feminine energy.
Mm. And I think a lot of times too, like I said, you know, from a parenting standpoint, like you have, especially if you're raising a boy, you have to have the
Mm-hmm.
ability to be able to give that boy, like, be able to build him tough, you know,
Mm,
and not in a way where you're like beating them up and like, you know, being just an asshole to them, but in a way of like, hey, like, let's build your character, you know, like, because
mm,
life's not going to be easy on you, you know what I mean? And, you know, I think that's one of the things that we lack right now to where it's like, you know, most parents just want to, obviously, as a parents, we want to give our kids the things that we didn't have. But at the same time, we can't take away, you know, that sense of like, hey, you still need to hunt. You need to learn how to hunt. You need to learn how to provide and protect for yourself, you know, and for
mm,
the most part, you know, since things have been good in a society, from a society standpoint, you
mm-hmm.
know, both males and females have given, you know, extra affection to a child to where it's like, okay, now I know that my parents are protecting me, or
Yep.
I'm always been protected, or if I fall, I already know that I have somebody to protect me, you know,
Yep.
or lift me up. When in reality, it's like you gotta learn how to step up. Obviously, it hurts me. Like when I see my son fall, I'm like, damn, like
Like it hurts,
my
of
little guy, you
course.
know. But I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, come on, get up, you know, like you're good, you know. I'll be like, yeah, you know, qué bueno, te caíste, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and I think that's something that's missing because we went the complete opposite, right? And this is also too like the problem with unrealistic expectations, right? It's like, you know, for these last couple of years, I remember girls having an issue with men not being vulnerable and trying to make men vulnerable. Well, here's the result of that. You know, here's the extreme result of that because now you've given a man an outlet to not feel like they have a sense to provide, protect, and they don't understand who they are as men and the roles that they play in this society. So this is the extreme of it, right? It's like now you have men that don't want to work, that they work a little bit, it's too hard, it's too complicated, so that they haven't been challenged in life, right? And a lot of that starts off with parenting too. Um, so I forgot where I was going with this. I was on a roll and I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, I think we were talking about men and
Oh yeah,
in their
because oh yeah,
feminine.
because somebody said,
What?
um, something about like what do you think about where is it at? Where is it at?
Oh, what do you think of being pure?
No, no, no.
Oh, I just saw that. What do you think about being here?
Or
Look at
somebody
that.
saying, like somebody saying that it was acceptable for a man to acknowledge his feelings. You know, I think it's for a man you can't. I think the mistake is that women expect men to be emotional at all given times, just how they are. And a man is not supposed to be that way. He's not wired to be that way. Because then again, you get this extreme of how we are right now in society, right? To the point where it's just chaos, to where now men, want to be women and this and that, and it's like it's just an imbalance of, like Dieguito's on here too.
Dieguito.
Yeah,
It's your boy Diego.
it's just the extreme of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think a man isn't necessarily wired to be emotional as much as women think they would want a man to be. And the reason why I say that is because the moment that a man starts being too emotional, you start seeing him as weak. And then when you start seeing him as weak, you can no longer feel protected, and you no longer, have how do I say it? Like, that man is no longer valuable to you as much, because you know that you can't be protected and you can't be provided for. Because I think and instinctively a woman wants to be protected and provided for.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that doesn't mean that they can't do their own thing, but how Anita was saying, woman wants to feel like, if I was to give up on everything right now just to be with my kids or take some time for myself, I know that my husband's gonna step up, or I know that my boyfriend's gonna step up and make sure that we're both taking care of why I take this time. And a man can be in an emotional state of mind if that was the case, right?
Exactly. I'm a woman and I tend to keep my feelings in, as that's how I was raised. Always told not to cry as a little girl, but I'm working on that now. It's good to let feelings out at times. Yes, exactly. I think it's good to obviously have your moments, let them out, but it's also good not to dwell on them, because that's when people get stuck.
So this is actually a really good one right
What?
here. Yvette said, "My husband never thanks for what I do. I'm a stay-at-home wife, and I'm always there for everyone. He tells me that's my obligation to do everything just because he brings in the money." See, that's
Ooh.
a perfect example of what we were conversating about earlier. You know what I mean? You guys are in a situation where you guys are against each other instead of working collectively to build for one another. And I think that's the thing. It's like you guys should have communication in terms of like, hey, like, I know things are hard for the both of us. Things are hard for me at home, making sure that the kids are good, making sure that, this is done and food is ready, or whatever your situation is. But then also as a man, be able to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I understand. I know that you're doing your best to provide and, give us a better life, or make sure that we're taken care of. But I want you to know that I'm here to listen to anything that you have to say. That doesn't mean that you're asking him to be too emotional, but just to level out the playing
Be
field so that
understanding.
he's no longer needing to defend himself. You know what I mean? So I would say, work on, that communication aspect of things, and understand that if you guys have a family, you guys are a team. You guys aren't divided, because if you continue to play divided, then eventually that's what you'll become.
And I think what happens there is he lacks awareness, because how he's telling you that you're not allowed to complain because that's your obligation. It's very like old school mentality, because that's how it was back in the day. It's like the woman stays and they have to clean, cook,
Well,
and
think about it this way too. Would you feel it's a man's responsibility to provide and protect?
that what happened?
Do you feel like it's a man's responsibility to provide and protect?
Yes.
So based on him feeling that way, that's the reason. We were
But
literally
the
having this conversation
but the
earlier.
fact that he said that she can't like
Yeah, but
complain.
you don't know the things that are in
Right.
his mind when he's providing and protecting, and the pressure.
But I
So
also
no,
feel
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying that he's right. What I'm trying to give you is that perspective, right? To where it's like based on his conditioning, his upbringing, maybe his dad and his mom's relationship was like that. So based on that, he's reacting based on those life experiences that he's had, right? If he had a better way of communicating or a better upbringing,
But that's
or
what
a,
I'm saying. He lacks awareness because of
yep.
because if he knew, like, he could literally just be like, "Hey, like, I'm sorry. What is it that you're going through?" Because I think a lot of men think that just because you're a stay-at-home mom
That you don't do anything.
that you don't do anything, that you're just, oh, you have it easy, all you get to do is just stay at home. No, in reality, it's like I have a 24/7 job, because at nighttime, if the baby wakes up, guess who's the one that gets up with them? Me. You know, if they're sick, like, I have to be taking care of them. You're literally cooking 3 meals a day, washing dishes, cooking, cleaning. That's like tiring, you know. So he's not seeing her perspective. It's just
she just said it. She was like, that's how my in-laws are.
Oh, yeah.
Like, literally what I was saying. Like, it's not
machismo.
we were talking about earlier when we were eating. We were talking about how somebody's reality in their mind, based on their circumstances and the things that they were exposed to growing up, it's their reality. So that makes it true, right? In their mind and in their world, it's a fact, and it's just true.
It's true. It's very true, though.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's especially if his parents were like that.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't make it right.
My mom never complained.
Yeah, it doesn't make it right, but at the same time, you gotta understand that that was his perspective and his reality. Now that you both know that, it's like, hey, how can we evolve from this? How can we communicate better so that it's not a what you're doing and what you're not doing and what you need to be doing and, you know, this and that, right? Because I'm sure you're probably not perfect either. I'm sure you've had, you know, situations where you've gotten mad at him and you told him, like, well, you don't do this, well, da da da, like, you know, like, so because of that, I'm sure it's accumulated to the point where now it's to that extent, right? But just as much as it makes you uncomfortable, him telling you that, I'm pretty sure it also makes him uncomfortable with some of the things that you have said, done, or haven't done. So because of that, it's gotten to this point, right? So like I said, it's just communication and creating.
So what would you say? How could she bring this up to her man without, obviously, because she has a way, she feels some type of way, right? But maybe the way she wants to communicate it to him, we don't want it to come out as in like aggression or I'm nagging at you. Like, in what way can she approach him? Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think it's I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. You know, I think it's just more in the sense of, like, you know, hey, like, I just want to have a conversation with you. Like, it's not to add any more stress or pressure to you. I just want you to know that I appreciate everything that you do for us. Obviously, you know, we're going through X and X situation, but I want you to know that, you know, I want to have better communication with you. I might come across as bitchy sometimes, and that's not my intention. Sometimes I might just be irritated or annoyed with the kids, and sometimes the way that I say things to you might not be the best way, right? And vice versa. So I want to create this environment for us to, you know, be able to have these communications of, like, hey, you know, whenever you're overstressed or you're over this, like, let's just communicate it. Like, let's just talk it over. Come at it from that perspective. But if you tell him, like, hey, I need to have a talk with you, he's immediately going to be like, damn, like, I'm not going to make it home. I'm going to avoid this at all costs, you know, this and that. So I would say just kind of open it in that perspective. And when you do it in person. Like, you know, I think, you know, we're so used to just doing everything through text. But be confident enough to say, you know, if it's valuable enough for you and it means so much to you, like, be able to have the conversation in person and bring it up from a perspective of, like, hey, I'm not here to attack you. I'm here so that we can get better together.
She said at this point, I try to avoid talking to him, can never talk to him.
Yeah, see? Like, it's as much as you are saying that what he's doing, you play a big part of it too as well.
It's also too the way you're approaching
it's a two-way street, right? I think, you know, compounded over time, obviously things can get, you know, very toxic between the both of you to where now you don't even want to talk to him. But again, if you really want things to get better, you have to create that space for it to happen, or else it's never going to be happening. And eventually you guys are going to end up breaking up, or you guys are eventually going to go through a situation that you don't want to put your family through. So definitely, I would say
you have to have uncomfortable conversations, and it's not easy, but that's what's going to build your relationship, you know? But somebody had asked, so if a man and woman both work, should the woman still have to do all the cooking and cleaning?
What was that again?
Brianna T. So if a man and a woman work, should both the woman... Oh, wait. So if a man and a woman both work, should the woman still have to do all the cooking and cleaning?
You know, that's a case-by-case scenario. You know, you can't blanket statement, you know, households. You know, and I think that's the problem with society. It's like, if me and her, agree that I protect, I provide, I do this, I do that, I make sure that everything is good, and she's gonna cook, clean, etc. If that's okay between me and her, then that's okay between me and her, right? I can't say that's the case for
For
everybody.
everybody.
Same thing in your relationship. It's like, what do you want your relationship to be? What things do you want out of it, right? If you think that's not a fair thing to do, then have that conversation with your partner to where you both find that middle ground to make it so that it's not like that. But again, you can't expect somebody to give you a blanket statement for something that's so intricate and, case by case scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. But I also think too, that doesn't mean the guy has to be like a pig, and have you be like their servant. Like that's not fair. Like they should have the basic skills or needs to be able to survive without you, right? So it's like even coming to the littlest thing, like picking up your clothes, putting them where they belong. Yeah, I could do the laundry, but just put it where it belongs. I can do the cooking, but pick up your plate, put it in the dish. Like I could wash the dishes, but like little things like that that also help contribute. It's not just I'm not your maid. I'm not gonna be smelling your pedos like that. No, So it's important that you both know, you both help each other. That makes
100%.
sense.
Yeah, even with my son, it's like sometimes like I'll see him helping her cook and, doing this and doing that. I'm like, he needs to learn that, It doesn't make him less of a man, because at the end of the day, he's going to have to be able to provide for himself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's not always going to have a woman at his side, and it's okay if he doesn't want to get married. Like if he has to be out in college, he has to be out on a business trip, whatever, and he needs to cook, at least he knows how to cook. At least he knows how to wash his clothes. At least it's just basic necessities, to survive. So yeah, I think it's important that, not men, and if you're having a tough day, if he wants to cook for you, then
Look, even my little brother nailed it.
what do you say?
He said, to be honest, it's just trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Mic drop.
Diego, yep,
You know?
that's how it is. Yes. Oh my God, you guys are going at it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I think people are
So
loving
they're
this.
Naya and Diego are definitely my
Your brothers,
my
your
brother and my
siblings.
sister, for real.
It says a lot about your partner's way of coping when you're having a difficult conversation. Yes, I think too, you guys, emotional maturity is a big one, because you can literally sit here with someone or your significant other, and if they don't have the emotional maturity, they will, one le sale entra por un ojo, le sale por otro. It's just never ending cycle. They won't understand you. If he's emotionally mature, he's gonna sit there, hear what you're saying, try to get in, like Diego said, in your shoes, and try to come up with a solution that can benefit the both of you. It's
Yeah.
not just me, you, and this and that.
Yeah, this is actually a really good comment
Which
somebody
one?
said. There's a couple good ones, but I want to address this one because it piqued my interest, right?
Which one?
It says, I definitely think the man should be the protector, but I don't think they have to be the provider. There are many boss women that can provide, but also need to share those family
Right.
responsibilities, right? And everything that we're saying right now, again, like I said, it's not
Wait,
a blank.
which one are you reading? I'm so lost.
It is by Gloria.
Oh, I definitely think the men should be the protector, but I don't think they have to be the provider. There are many boss women that can provide, but also need to share those family responsibilities.
Yeah. So basically, going back to what I was saying, like, it's everything that we say is not a blanket statement. Like I said, like, what works for us doesn't work for everybody. What you believe in, we might not believe in, right? But it doesn't make you right or wrong. And for the most part, I'm not saying that you're doing this, but the majority of people get so offended and so triggered by things needing to be black and white without realizing that there's a middle ground when it comes to a relationship, right? I'm not saying that, for me personally, I feel like a man should provide and protect. That's my
Just what you
belief,
believe.
right? That's how I feel in my heart. That's something that I gladly get to do and I enjoy doing. So for that reason, that's what I'm going to say, right? But in your perspective, I agree 100%. Like I said, she works, she loves to do her thing. She brings in her own money. Like, that takes nothing away from me being a provider and a protector. It takes nothing away from me. So same thing with you. If that's what works best for you, then more power to it. It doesn't make it right or wrong. I don't disagree with it. It's just what you want out of your life, right? It's not like, again, like I said, it's not a blanket statement. So, and that's what creates a lot of, you know, separation between society, because they think that if my specific scenario doesn't fit into your specific scenario, well, then you're wrong. And it just creates this whole chaos of, you know, separation between man and female, because a man who might be struggling emotionally, financially, can go and attack a woman that, you know, might be doing better than him in terms of like providing and protecting for her family, because he's insecure about himself. Or there's a disconnect, you know, that happens between, you know, roles, right? But in essence, like I said, you know, there's no right or wrong. It's what you want out of your life. You know what I mean? And I can't judge you for, you know, if you want your man to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm just giving that as an example. If you want your man to be a stay-at-home dad, and you're the one that wants to go out there and work and do your thing,
then so yeah, I mean, everybody has
beautiful.
like different, yeah, because I have friends, well, I have a friend who she is she has like the career, like a successful career, and her husband stays at home with the kids. You know, that's what works for them. That's what you know, when they first met, she told them straight out the bat, like, hey, if we ever have kids, I want to be the provider, and I want you to stay at home with the kids, and that works for you, cool, we move on. If not, then I'm not the girl for you. And he was like, oh, I'm cool with it. You know, I love spending time with kids. Like, I'll stay at home. So he stays at home, takes care of the babies, and she's the go-getter, you know? But I think with us, our situation, yes, he makes the most money, but also too, it's like we see it as in a teamwork, right? Like, yes, he could take care of me, right? If I wanted to, if tomorrow I want to drop my business, whatever, I know that I can depend on him. But for what works for us, it's like we both work so that we can get to our goal faster, you know? And so, I mean, we're able to give our kids more experiences. We're able to travel, because with one income, we would not that we'd be limited, but, you know, it's having an extra income doesn't hurt, you know? So we just get there faster. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
And it's like, I think for me personally, and I think, you know, again, understanding more of like the hidden aspect of how things are the way they are right now, especially, you know, females now needing to step up and work and provide. I think it's now more based out of a intention than it is a decision, right? And the reason why I say that is because, like, you know, for us, again, like I said, it's like she doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to, right? But in, you know, in a more general perspective, it's like, for the most part, a woman does have to work because one income is not enough. You know what I mean? But that's because everything is so expensive. So you need those two incomes in order for you guys to even just be able to live, right? But one of the things that I don't necessarily agree with, whether it's the male being at home or the female being at home, is that the lack of us being able to parent our kids, right? I think that's one of the things that I think, instead of being who's the one that provides more or who does this more, it's like, you know, who's taking care of our kids, you know, who's raising our kids to be better than we were.
Yes.
Instead of, you know, allowing teachers that you might not even know fully of what their beliefs are. It's like, who's raising our children, who's instilling good habits into our kids, who's instilling discipline. If we were a little bit toxic growing up and we struggled emotionally, financially, how can we educate our kids to be better than that, right? We can't leave that off to the school system and the government to educate our kids. It's like, it's our responsibility. So a big factor that most parents don't consider, because we're so stuck on like, who does this more, who does less, who doesn't wash dishes, who doesn't.
That is
it's like
so
the
true.
kids, you know, like, when are you going to consider the kids? Like,
Yep.
you know, you got to think, you know, more, instead of it just being about yourself, you got to think about the kids, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that's at play here. It's understanding that we're going through a time period where, you know, our kids are, you know, growing up in a household where both parents are working, they're not actively involved with them. And I think that should be the real problem that we have to focus on instead of who washes the dishes and who doesn't. Obviously, yes, we got to have that communication, but the bigger thing here is the kids.
Stephanie said, "Where's the respect from him? What are they talking about?"
Where?
I think we missed a comment. That can I pull it up?
Yeah, just scroll down.
What do you mean scroll down?
Which one are you reading, babe?
No, I think it's that one. What if both work? What if both work? Go 50-50 on bills. Wife cooks and cleans, but once the wife gets sick, she gets belittled about not providing the bills for the time she is sick, getting called broke.
I don't think that's a feminine and masculine problem. That's a
More of a
personal
relationship,
problem.
yeah.
Relationship problem.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's unfair, right? Because you have a reason to. And again, I think for the most part, I think a woman should choose their men more wisely. And
Ooh, all right. Now that you said that,
because that's your fault.
Yeah, no. Now that you said that, I heard something where it says that us women have the power to dictate our future and stuff, and that is so true, you guys. Because what Jose was saying is we have the power to choose who we want as a partner, as a husband, as the father of our children.
Because think about this, right?
We have the power, literally.
Yeah, because a woman, they'll see a guy that looks cute, got a fresh cut, dresses well, but you never pay attention to his character. You never pay attention to him being that type of person to you.
His values, his morals, how he values family, you know, because at the end of the day, you're going to be married to this man for years. And for example, that,
it's like a lot of times, both guys and girls make decisions without realizing the full extent of that decision, right? It's like, you can't just date a guy and just because you find him attractive. It has to be deeper than that. It's like, is this guy going to be a good father? Is this guy going to treat me good in every area? If this guy's going to talk to me in a specific way, jokingly or not, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of these little things, little factors that a lot of times we don't consider that has nothing to do with it being a masculine or a feminine thing. It's just a character thing, right? Yep. You met him that way. So you kind of have to deal with that now, right? I'm not saying he's in the right. You know what I mean? That's one thing that for the most part, when somebody says something, we take it personal because we think that we're agreeing with that person, right? But again, if you self-analyze and realize that you could have made a better decision, I'm not saying you can't fix it or you can't improve upon it, but at the end of the day, you knew exactly who you were dealing with, before you committed to that relationship.
And it's so important to acknowledge the red flags at an early, when you're dating. And a lot of times we're like, oh, it's okay. We try to sweep them under the rug, but those red flags are there for a reason. And you really need to acknowledge them, because then it's once you fall in love with them, then it's hard for you to get out of it, so whenever you do see
here's a perfect example, right, of what I mean when it comes to like awareness and having emotional intelligence. So Stephanie was like, Michelle, where's the respect from him? Like, why does it always have to, like, think about this, right? If I say,
I think she's referring to
the one that I just read.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to explain is, like, for the most part, we make assumptions right off the surface level message, right, or comment or situation or whatever that might be, right? But there's also other factors that add on to certain circumstances, and for the most part, most people don't have the capacity to be able to truly, think things true of, just because for the most part, it's like if a woman says that a man disrespected her, the majority of women will just jump in and say, oh yeah, leave him, you deserve better, but they never put the woman at question. You know what I mean? And this is vice versa, both for guys too as well. Like if a guy says something about a girl's like, oh, she's a hoe, oh, she's a this and that, I'll be like, Why are you saying that? You know what I mean? I'm going to question you because I know that it's a two-way street, right? I know that I know you ain't perfect, my boy. You know what I mean? I know you've done things too that you
Maybe
might be a
caused
little
her to.
player, you might be a little flirty with somebody else, you might be doing this, you might be doing that. Like, you're not perfect, my boy. So the fact that you're pointing the finger at only what she did, that doesn't make you right. And now I'm going to question you because if you're trying so hard to prove a point, that means that you're trying to hide something. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, for the most part, especially like obviously now with TikTok and like social media, people just jump the gun based on who said it, right? If I'm a man, that doesn't mean that I'm just gonna go and, you know, protect and defend this man because I'm a guy, and vice versa for a woman. Like, you shouldn't just jump the gun and agree, right? Because bringing it back to the whole Andrew Tate situation, right? He was accused of this and that, and now that things played out, those girls are actually being sued because they lied, But everybody jumped the gun and saying like, oh, they were used and they were that, da da da, just because they were women, right? So now imagine that case or that situation across the board with so many other factors, right? So let's be comfortable and really hearing the full context of things, really analyzing, really taking the time to hear the full context and the full storyline before we make decisions and we jump conclusions, because that's why shit goes south even more. You know what I mean?
Babe, I can't. I'm sorry.
What?
Like at Diego, he's like, I would want to be a stay-at-home dad, but at the same time, I want to work at home.
I would wanna be a
All right,
stay-at-home dad.
Diego is Jose's brother. He's what, like 8?
Yeah.
No, Mila's 8,
What?
9, 10. Like Diego's like 10 or 11.
Yeah. I'm not really gonna get into the
Ay,
situation with
Diego.
my brother, but my sister has a lot to do with my brother's character. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, Diego. My man did cheated on me. I'm so sorry, but man, that's so hard.
Everyone has to find what works for them.
Open.
I love this to you guys. Uh,
I think we should wrap it up. I think we should do one last question and wrap it up because it's
How far are we
already
now?
it's 8:40 already.
Oh damn, we went at this for a minute.
It's
That's a really good conversation.
It's a really good conversation, and I think this is like I know a lot of our listeners are female, so they're really intrigued by having a male perspective too. It kind of gives them some insight of how a man thinks
Processes
or
and
process
things.
things differently. So I'm 12.
But I
so-
think it's important to, like, whenever you're paying attention to anybody, make sure that that person has enough emotional intelligence to be able to communicate the right message, right? Because again, if I wasn't emotionally intelligent, I'd be like, nah, like a guy, da da da, or females, or this and that. Like, I'll just be somebody that's attacking female instead of coming from
Being
a place
neutral.
of like, hey, I understand both sides. I can put myself in this person's shoes. You know what I mean? And for the most part too, it's like you and I were having this conversation of, some toxic men hide behind masculinity just as much as toxic females hide behind femininity, right? That's like like a layer of protection for them, right? It's like in anything.
Yes.
Like, there's guys who are just gonna be point blank, just like bad men, and same thing for females. But then you create this movement, and those same people hide within that so that you can no longer make them feel like they're doing something wrong, right? It's like, for example, let's use a female, right, as an example. A female can have hoish tendencies, but then will hide under femininity because it's empowered for her to show her body, for her to show, this and that, and you know what I mean? So it's like you gotta be able to have the capacity to see things further than just the surface level as things. And same thing for a guy. A guy can be very toxic, can be narcissist, can be controlling, but he'll hide under masculinity or traditional masculine roles just because he thinks that's his protection or that's how things should be. But it's like, no, you're just a toxic, you know what I mean? And same thing for a female.
For female. That
Yeah.
is so true, babe. Especially with
So,
today's society.
yeah, it's always bigger than just the surface level of things, right? It's like, for us being Mexican, just because we're Mexican, that doesn't mean that we're all borrachos, that we all like to drink, that we all like to, do this and do that. It's deeper than that.
Yeah. Oh, there. Oh, here comes the questions. I'm like, okay. I was gonna say, Jose, do you think you can be controlling? Or Anita, parents put certain ways of thinking, and we tend to think that way until we realize and break from our parents' way of thinking because maybe they had a failed relationship or marriage.
No, honestly, I think
I'm very controlling. I'm just kidding. No,
no, I don't think either her or I are controlling.
Are they talking about the kids?
I think just in general.
The way until we realize. Okay. Oh, okay. No, yeah, I don't think. I think when we first started dating, we were, but again, we were.
It wasn't that we were
16,
controlling;
17.
we were just immature.
We were toxic too. Yeah, we were very, very immature. We would fight about the dumbest things. We would break up every single day, literally.
Literally,
We were breaking up every single day. But as we got older, obviously we started. I think once we had kids, it was when it really hit us, like, oh wow, we have kids,
Yeah.
And then obviously when Jose started to embark his personal development journey is when it kind of I started like following, and then getting into it. And I didn't really get into personal development until, we broke up, to be honest. Before, I know he would tell me like, babe, read this book, babe, listen to this Audible, like watch this, listen to that. And I was just like, he's crazy. Like, I'm okay, but, when we broke up is when I was like, oh snap, like you start becoming very fascinated by a lot of things once you start learning about yourself, your weaknesses, and then now I'm like I'm so addicted to learning. Like, it's just mind-blowing every day. I like we'll text each other, like we'll send ourselves videos of like mind-blowing things, and we have conversations like this.
Yeah, and I think when the reason why that is because the moment that you realize that the person that you thought was the problem wasn't the problem, that's when you really realize like who was the problem. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's across the board with anything. It could be in a relationship, it can be in a friendship, it can be in a job environment or whatever. It's like for the most part, we're we easily place the judgment on others before we place it on ourselves, right? We're quick to point the finger before we start looking internally. We're quick to, seek external pleasures before we start understanding ourselves internally, right? And so because of that, it's like, I think that's what really creates that self-development, and I think I had to go through that at an early age. I realized that, I had to hit rock bottom and realize that nobody was going to come to save me. And so because of that, I've always looked internally ever since, and I think, with our specific situation, it was Anita's first time really going through that. And then when she realized like, oh snap, like I'm in the equation too, and then she started working on herself. Obviously now she's developed into who she is today. But I think we all have to go through that in some shape or form, whether it's with our physical appearance, whether it's with our relationship, whether it's with our faith, whether it's with our job, our career, whatever the situation might be. We all need to look internally first before we put the blame on the world and say, I'm not this because of society's hierarchy. I'm not this because a woman doesn't have the equal opportunity as a man. I'm not this because, he had daddy's money, or, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of all these little factors that you can utilize to try and mask the real problem. But until you address the real problem, then that's when you'll truly realize that it was never all these external factors. It has always been you.
So, Chrissy said, do men get tired of a stern woman or lose respect for her after a while? Do men want a woman who needs them instead of being independent themselves? I think that's for you, babe.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, men do get tired of a stern woman because, again, when we're working, providing this and that, like we already deal with all of that, right? So whenever you want to come home, it's like, I just want to come home. I want my wife, my partner to be my peace. I want as little stress is possible. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be expectations or, roles at the household that the man still has to perform. But I would say when you're somebody that's just consistently like nagging, or this and that, like, of course, a man's gonna be like, I'm over this. You know what I mean?
What about, do men want a woman who needs them instead of being independent themselves?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you're a man that, finds joy and happiness in providing, protecting, you definitely want a woman who depends more on you. Not because she needs to, but I think as a man, it's something that gives you a sense of fulfillment, knowing that you have the responsibility over somebody, and, you work hard and you take pride in being that protector and that provider. Sort of like I'm the Superman, kind of effect, right? Obviously, for some men it might be different, but I think for my specific scenario, like, I personally like the fact that, if she has a problem, I can go and solve it. It gives me a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean? But again, it's just depending on how the man.
And I
is
think for
wired.
me too, like me having my business, I think it gives me a sense of, because we're both entrepreneurs, right? We both rely on our income and stuff. It's not like we work a 9 to 5 and we can, So for me, I feel like if his business was ever to take a hit, I know that I'm okay taking care of us, if that makes sense, So I think for women out there, I'm sure, if you feel that sense of fulfillment, like, I know that, yes, I can fall on him if something were to happen, but he can also fall on me, because if his business, obviously it will still stress him out, but not to the point where we're going to be homeless, where we can't have food on the table. Like, we'll still be able to survive, because and it gives me, like, as a woman, I feel even more empowered knowing that could be the case and we're okay.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
I don't need for her to fully be dependent on me. You know what I mean? I think there's layers to it. And I think some men, again, they just need. It's a sense of like weakness if you're not providing for your woman to where she can just stay at home. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way. I think for me, it's like whatever makes her happy makes me even happier. Because I know that if my household is taken care of, I'm good with all the pressure of the world. You know what I mean? And so it varies. But yeah, it's all
Christina
personal.
said you can go above and beyond for your partner and still get treated poorly. But I also think
that's a per person scenario, not
yeah,
a masculine
or
trait.
feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Naya said, what is considered nagging? Ándale, te puts on the spot.
So I would consider nagging. So for example, like, hey, you forgot to take out the trash this morning. Hey, you didn't wash this one dish. And it's like, bam, 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 and the guy obviously is doing his best to be able to provide. I'm not saying that the guy was wrong. I mean, was right in leaving dirty dish or forgetting to take out the trash, but shit just happens sometimes, right? And I think there comes a point where it's just a consistent thing, where it's just like,
And also,
I don't even wanna do it.
I also think it's like the delivery. Cause
yeah, I think it's mainly that the delivery.
Yeah, the delivery.
The delivery over the task.
Yeah, because you can literally be like, hey, babe, I asked you in the morning to take out the trash and you forgot. Yeah. And then you could just be like, oh, yeah, like, sorry, babe, I'll take it out right now. And just take it out. And there you avoid a whole ass argument. Instead of him coming and be like, see, you always forget to take out the trash. I told you. And the difference, the delivery for sure.
Somebody said, what do you think is the best way to handle finances? For example, having a joint account or a separate account to spend for yourself. It's personal preference, right? There's no right or wrong. I have my personal account. She has her personal account. One of the things that we do have collective is like our life insurance policies. So I'm a dependent on hers. She's a dependent on mine. Because we know at the end of the day, regardless of anything, like, we're always going to protect and provide for our kids.
For the kids. Yeah.
But I would say that's personal preference.
Yeah, because I know people who have joint accounts. We have, the only joint account we have is like our business, which is the Jam Fam account. That's it. But it's personal preference. Alrighty, guys. I'm loving this. You guys keep dropping truth bombs. Thank you. Yes, life happens. Look at the Inky boys. She became a single mom.
That's
Yeah,
a tough
it's so
situation.
tough. But yeah, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think this was a. Let us know if we should do part two, because
Yeah.
this was a really good topic, and I
Yeah,
think
to add on to the whole Enki Boys thing, I think that dad did an amazing job at raising
oh,
his
for
son.
sure. I mean,
The little boy's gonna be an
he
amazing, incredible man.
yeah, and he opened up the doors to so many things where obviously, he didn't leave them in a situation where they can't
They're
survive.
struggling
They're
to the
struggling.
extent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, he did an amazing job, and it sucks, it really does suck, especially being a mom. And now, like, because it's hard, because when you're a mom and you go through stuff like that, you can't sit there and dwell on it. You can't grieve the way you would want to, because you have to be strong for your kids. You have no time to sit there and cry for days. Yeah, you might break down and cry, but at the end of the day, you got to get it done, because you don't want to be sad for them. You got to be strong for them.
Yeah.
So that's hard. And then she said, I think these conversations are going to be needed more often.
100%. That's the whole reason why this whole show live concept started happening, because Anita and I have these conversations like while we're driving or when we're just eating, these are really conversations that we generally have, off of camera. And we just thought like, okay, this could be super impactful for a lot of people, right? Because again, it's not about right or wrong, it's just, again, having higher awareness and higher consciousness to understand that it's a deeper issue than what sometimes we think is the issue, right?
Yeah.
It's a deeper problem than just society in itself, or what's trending, or our culture or our upbringing. It's always deeper than that, right? And I think when you start understanding that, and you start taking self-accountability and responsibility for your own life, that's when you truly start living life, right? Because you accept things for what they are, but that doesn't mean that you're sad, that you're just coasting through life. Now
Yeah.
you understand, okay, I know that life is this, but what can I do to still live a great life, right?
Yep.
And when you're able to give yourself that power, possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Being a single mom is the hardest yet most rewarding job. Yep. Yeah, and I'm sure your kids are going to thank you, once they get older. Obviously, sometimes there might come times where they don't understand, but they'll appreciate you and they'll thank you for everything you've done for them in the
100%.
future.
Like, my mom was very hard on me growing up. She was very she's a very stern woman, very disciplined, very like perfectionist. If you don't do it right, you're gonna do it again until you get it right.
Yeah.
But now I'm grateful because of that. She was a single mom, like Anita was saying. That she didn't have the time to grieve the loss of my brother, the situation with my dad. All she knew is that she had to protect and provide for me, in whatever way she could. And I'm grateful for it. So
Yeah.
I understand her.
Alrighty, guys. So we're gonna end the video here. We went on about it, but this was
This
such a
one
good
went
topic.
super fast.
I think it was really, really helpful. I hope it helped some of you guys get a different perspective, whether it's for you, for your relationship, your future relationships, just to make you a little bit more aware. But yeah, it feels nice. Honestly, it feels really nice to be able to share what we've been through and the things that we've learned throughout the years. I feel like we're old, but we're really not.
No, we're still
But we've
super
just
young.
been through a lot, especially because we've been together for so long. So, it's nice to be able to sit here and share our experiences and share what's worked for us and how we've been able to, cope and deal with everything and still be here. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us. It really means a lot.
Yeah, honestly, like, this one really amazing. I thought some people were gonna be triggered. You know what I mean? But everything went
Yeah.
smoothly.
No, I don't think yeah, it was just the window.
Yeah,
We'll
just
clean
the
the
window.
window next time, guys. Sorry, we'll have everything picture perfect, okay?
Nah, but even that was a good.
No, it really was. It was
perspective,
a really
it
good
was a-
perspective. We hardly ever get, like, I don't think we've ever had any comments, like bad comments. So, it's good. We get a lot of good feedback, and we'll make sure we'll clean the window next time, you
Nah,
guys.
actually, like,
It's a
it's
piece of
gonna
art.
sound weird. It's gonna sound weird to you guys, but there's a lot of other like fingerprints in the thing, and those are all Aiden's, right? And I had watched this video saying how, you know, us as parents, whenever, you know, our child gets something dirty, the first thing we would do is get mad at them and go and clean it. But then we come to the point where we realize that those moments aren't gonna last very long, you know. And when I heard that video, I was like, all right, I'm not cleaning my window.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
true. Yeah, like sometimes my house, you guys, is like you can hardly walk. We're walking like this because the kids, I mean, I clean. If you're a mom, you know that you clean, and within 5 minutes, the house is like a tornado ran by.
Literally.
But I always tell my mom, like, just because, you know, she helps to watch them when we're working. Like right now, we're doing this. She's at home with them. And so sometimes she feels like, oh, I need to clean up, you know, leave the house clean. I'm like, no, mommy, just let it be, because in 5 minutes it'll be the same. And I want the kids to enjoy the house, and we're gonna miss this, you know, because they're gonna get to an age where they're gonna be in their rooms, or they're gonna be off in college, they're gonna be off, you know, on a business venture, whatever it is that they decide to do. And I'm like, we're gonna have the house to ourselves, no toys. We're gonna miss the noise, we're gonna miss the toys, we're gonna miss everything. So just, this is their house, you know, let them be kids, let them explore, let them play, let them create, because they're gonna get big and they're gonna grow up, and we're gonna miss that. So next time, don't be too hard on yourselves. I know as moms, and it was very hard for me because I like to keep things, you know, put away, and it frustrates me, but I'm like, oh, I gotta relax, it's okay, it's just a moment to face, and it's gonna pass, and just cherish it, live in the moment, be present.
Yeah. Linda was like, I'm sorry about my comment.
Oh, I thought
No,
you said,
you don't have to.
babe, I thought you said, I'm sorry about my condom. I was like, what? I'm sorry. No, Linda,
you don't have to
you're
apologize.
good.
Like I said, it's like, it's perspective, you know, at the end of the day. And it's like, you know, when you have enough emotional intelligence, you don't take things personal.
Yeah,
you know what
no,
I mean?
it's
It was just a
good.
perfect example of what's, you know, going on right now in society. It's like people are quick to judge without realizing the full context
Hey,
of things.
but you know what? I'm glad that you didn't take it the wrong way when we approached the comment too, because
Yeah.
you could have easily been like, oh, they're this
so
and
rude.
that, and
They got offended when
they
I
got
said this.
offended. Yeah, no. So I appreciate you, you know, apologizing. You really don't have to, but I know you probably came in a way of just trying to be nice, to have like a good background, not distracting or anything. But you're good, girl. We're not taking things personal. That's another thing, not taking things personal.
Don't take things personal.
So we're good. You're good. But yeah, guys, we will see you guys on our next video.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you guys. Bye. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that you have to end the live.